McCarthy of the state of California is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
The Speaker of the House has been removed.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Today, an indictment was unsealed.
A Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment.
I don't kick sideways, I'm kicking forward.
Ron DeSanctimonious.
The corporate press views me as a bigger threat.
Lauren Boebert is now apologizing after video showed her vaping inside a Denver theater.
The sudden and stunning end to Tucker Carlson's tenure at Fox.
They're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store.
For the first time since 1960, we will be looking at Hollywood on strike.
The United Auto Workers has launched an historic targeted strike.
Palestinian militants in Gaza fired thousands of rockets into Israel.
Today, Israel intensified its airstrikes on the Palestinian territory.
George Santos has been voted expelled from the House of Representatives.
Okay, producer Ashley did an amazing job in putting that together because, man, we do this every day, Francesca. It feels like 5 times a day, but it's so easy to forget how much actually happened in this year. And I was reminded of so much. Now, obviously, there's a lot that couldn't fit into a wrap-up video like that. So we will remind you that there was also the decision in the E. Jean Carroll sexual abuse case against Donald Trump, where he needs to give her $5 million, and that whole process isn't even done. There was the expelling of the Tennessee 3, and then eventually justice for them. The Supreme Court, of course, was also very busy this year, effectively ending affirmative action and killing Joe Biden's student loan relief plan. So, Supreme Court, some good decisions and then all of the other ones. So that's fun. But some good stuff was also identified in that video. You do have the indictments against Donald Trump, and you have, some really successful labor actions, including with the UAW. And there's a lot of bad stuff, but George Santos got kicked out. So, Francesca, what's your evaluation of 2023? What will or should it be remembered for?
Oh, this is such a hard one, but it feels like we have been like a dress rehearsal at the circus. Like, I feel like because it's not an election year, there were a lot of like off-year circus-like things, like the drama from the last circus, when we were on tour. That would be like the RICO charges. And then the circus of Boebert, Tucker Carlson getting kicked off. Like, not real Jan 6 stuff happened. We can always hope for 2024. But again, the sort of the side circus drama when like the lights are down and all the sort of like crap comes out. I feel like SCOTUS was like that as well. But again, there's no way to characterize how this was other than not the worst.
Yeah, I don't know if God, it's so like, how do you rate like horrific Supreme Court decisions? Like, you put both of those terrible, material impact on tens of millions of people, not just in the past, but also in the future. But then you remember, well, in the previous year, they got rid of Roe v. Wade. That's really bad too. Right. I don't know how you compare or contrast those things. The positive stuff, we have these indictments against Donald Trump, but of course, it's not like he's actually been convicted, other than the E. Jean Carroll, the civil stuff that he's actually been convicted on. So it could be that these just end up being like, the special counsel's like holding the football out and we're like, oh, I think I can kick it this time.
Yeah.
So that remains to be seen. In terms of like stuff outside of the United States, I am admittedly struggling to come up with good news. There's a continuation of the devastating war in Ukraine. There was, of course, October 7th and the horrors that have followed that as well. You've had droughts and famines in East Africa, parts of the Middle East. You've had horrific natural disasters in Asia and South and Latin America. So outside of the United States, maybe worse. I don't know, maybe we just don't get the good news here, but if you can come up with anything positive that's happened in other countries, feel free to let me know.
I mean, Lula came back into power in Brazil.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Good, but then Javier Milei became president just in the neighboring Argentina, which is awful, already awful. But yeah, largely, look, this has been a setup. Again, we're the dress rehearsal, the setup, the charges coming down, the indictments coming down, the plea deals exciting and interesting. But like 2024 and 5, oh boy. Those are gonna be, we need a meditation practice as a Dragon Squad because we're gonna need it.
Yeah, or I don't know, like maybe we can focus on things outside of politics that were positive. By the way, someone is saying that I said that Ukraine was this year. No, I said it was a continuation of the horrific war in Ukraine this year. But also there was some good stuff. It doesn't have to do with politics. Tears of the Kingdom came out this year, and Baldur's Gate 3 and Barbie came out this year. There was some good TV, and Gen V was pretty good. There was some good pop culture stuff. Taylor Swift, it's all over the place, and that's really bothering right wingers. So that's like got crossover appeal. What else might I be forgetting about?
I mean, Beyonce also was on tour. Depending on how you fall on that, and others. I'm sure other people, other musicians exist.
There are probably several.
There are probably a couple more.
Of the WWE had a good year. I know that was driving you morale-wise throughout the year.
What about sports, John? Hey, let's take a quick moment to talk about sports news.
Like that Super Bowl. Oh boy, howdy!
Ooh,
that was a good one.
Ooh, I like how they caught the ball sometimes.
They did, but sometimes not.
Sometimes
depending on who it was, that could be good or bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, yeah, look, this is a year that it had some good stuff. We also had a lot of like just a holding pattern, really. Like as we're gonna talk about later on in the show, the federal government, outside of Biden, a couple of executive actions, some of which were overturned, basically nothing happened. Like let's reserve our conversation for later on, but this was sort of like a reminder of, we always get something like this in the lead up to elections. Things sort of slow down a little bit in terms of legislation and everything, but this was like a particularly nothing year for substantive legislation getting passed. And I also, the year before the presidential election for me is always an exciting year because it's like, it's this time of possibility. Like what could end up happening? But it was also sort of ruined in that most of the challengers to Trump have been unable or unwilling to do what it takes to break through. And then the DNC has effectively annihilated the Democratic primary, and Biden is running again, even though he had said that he wouldn't run for a second term. We'll be talking about that side of it later on in the show in the aftermath when candidate Cenk Uygur joins us on the show. But yeah, I feel like we've been sort of denied some of the fun political primary stuff that should be delivered at a time like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other big news of this year has been exactly that, the complete kowtowing of the Republican Party to Donald Trump and I would say the implosion of Ron DeSantis, the inability to connect with anyone, including his own family, just including himself, including the inner voice that's just like, what are you doing, Ron?
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.